I think that the technology, obviously not new, is growing and maturing, and we're seeing a lot more capabilities start to come out. I am just of the mind that we've got to do leadership first and technology last. So, which might sound odd coming from a technology person, but really the core and the foundation of everything we're doing has to be the people and the process first before we layer any technology on top of it in order to do so effectively.
Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we learn about the people that are on the front lines delivering and protecting patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host of our program, and today I'm pleased to be joined by Heather Costa, the Director of Technology Resilience at the Mayo Clinic. Good day, Heather. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm well. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. I'm getting ready for the weekend. It's been a hot one here in Massachusetts, so I can't wait to spend some time in the pool.
Very nice. It's not been too bad here. No, not terrible.
Well, that's good. There's weird weather patterns, of course, as everyone knows. So we're experiencing a little bit of a heat wave with a lot of humidity. So it makes it difficult to sleep at night. But
absolutely.
Let's start off with a little bit about your current role in your organization.
Absolutely. So I'm the Director of Technology Resilience, as you mentioned, for the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic has main locations in Rochester, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Florida, and Scottsdale and Phoenix, Arizona, with a number of hospitals up in the health systems up in Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota area.
I'm sure always adding new ones as it goes.
There's always a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And we also have international presence.
And international too, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so your role is pretty important. So tell us what it means to be the Director of Technology Resilience.
So really, it's ensuring that we can effectively respond and recover when there's disruption.
Mm-hmm.
So really varied from the traditional disaster recovery approach, which is often an all or nothing sort of idea of a smoking hole in the ground and being able to simply fail over to another location. We really look at technology resilience as being something that is much more comprehensive and agile. So thinking in terms of being able to respond to any disruption, whether it's physical or cyber in nature, which, as you know, I'm sure with disaster recovery, typically it doesn't hold for cyber disruption. Right. But also being something that's useful day to day, not just when the meteor strikes the data center. So looking at things at sort of a more asset level,
mm-hmm.
And being very precise with what we're doing and how we're doing it in a way that we can respond and recover effectively for any size, scale, scope of disruption.
Okay, so things like measuring RTOs and RPOs and metrics.
A lot of that. Yes. Yeah. Definitely understanding what our capabilities are compared to the needs of the business,
mm-hmm.
Our clinical practice and education and research fields, which are all part of Mayo, and making sure that what we're doing and how we're doing it aligns with those needs,
mm-hmm.
Understanding that the needs of the patients come first.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine there's opportunity for trade-offs as well as you think through the risk appetite and the resiliency requirements.
Yes. I think certainly everything is done we use a risk-based approach. When we think about what's mission critical, we're thinking about the things that would first and foremost would have any catastrophic impact to our patients. Mm-hmm. And then we sort of have concentric circles out from there as far as the way that we are responding to things, protecting things, sort of that first things first approach.
Well, I like that approach. So how did you get into healthcare? In IT in particular?
Well, it was an interesting journey. Probably not your typical journey into this work. I worked for PNC Bank for many years and got a call one day. I'd been doing some work for one of the senior VPs, and he was also involved in business continuity, and he decided he needed to create a role for that because it was growing and the needs were growing. And I got a call asking if I would be interested in that role. And I recall my response being, what is business continuity? And the answer I got was, I don't know, call trees and stuff. And so for me, it was like, sure, why not? I'd been in the role that I had been in for a few years and was sort of sleepwalking through it from the standpoint of there wasn't anything new or exciting. It was the same kind of routine stuff every day. And I dove head first into this world of business continuity. And after I figured out what it actually was and ran through the first BIA, which happened in the very first month that I was in the role.
Oh, wow.
I learned what a BIA was and how to conduct it.
Yeah. What was that like? That must have been interesting.
It was really cool. It clarified for me that I really love this work. I think that was the start of it, right? So I laugh and I talk about, it took me 40 years to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I think really it was that. It was exciting to figure out. It leaned into a lot of my strengths around problem solving and putting puzzles together and those things that are really fascinating for me in a lot of ways. It's a way that allows you to be creative. This work requires creativity. It requires a calm yet quick ability to read situations and be decisive and make decisions on how to move forward effectively to get things underway, particularly when you're in the midst of a disruption. So I kind of found my way into what I think I was meant to do. It really fit with the person that I am and things that are part of the core of my being. So I was working for PNC Bank, like I mentioned, for several years and earn my certified business continuity professional certification through that process. And then I went back to school. I went back to school full time as a solo parent. I had, at the time, my 4 children. I had 2 in diapers, 1 in high school and 1 in college. And went back to school full time while I was working full time and finished an undergraduate degree that I had started some 20 years prior. But this time it was focused in emergency management and homeland security with a minor in digital forensics. And I graduated on Mother's Day, summa cum laude with a 4.0 because I don't do anything halfway.
Amazing. What a great story. What a great journey.
A week later, I got a call from the Cleveland Clinic and they asked if I would be interested in coming and joining their business continuity team, or their disaster recovery team.
Yeah.
And at the time, they were trying to sort of shift from disaster recovery into business continuity or business resilience. And after being in an individual contributor role there for a couple of years, I took over leadership of the team and we built a fully integrated business resilience program, one of the first and only ones in healthcare at the Cleveland Clinic, which
another marquee health system.
The number 2 hospital.
That's right.
So I often laugh and say, well, once you've done it at the number 2 hospital, the only other place to go to is the number 1 hospital. Yeah. So here I am. I've been with Mayo now for a little over 2 years.
Oh.
And we are on a journey to incrementally move the needle on this work and really develop what can and should be the best technology resilience program in the world.
Well, there's a lot of work going on with artificial intelligence at the Mayo. What have you started to incorporate that into your overall your strategy and your governance plan for resiliency, or is it too early?
So I don't know that I am in the same boat as a lot of people around AI. I know there's a lot of excitement around AI, and there's a lot of sort of rush to get it on board. I sit more in the camp of, I think it's critically important that we have solid program and process in place first, And then we find the right tools to layer on top of that are going to support that structure that's already in place. I think there's a lot of really exciting things that are happening in this space. I think that the technology, obviously not new, is growing and maturing, and we're seeing a lot more capabilities start to come out. I am just of the mind that we've got to do leadership first and technology last. So, which might sound odd coming from a technology person, but really the core and the foundation of everything we're doing has to be the people and the process first before we layer any technology on top of it in order to do so effectively.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I think you often hear that from folks that have been in the business for a long time, right? They recognize that it's not about the shiny new object. It is about the people first, the process that supports the business, and that connection with the business is so critical. If you don't have that, you really don't have a full visibility of the impact, if you will, of technology.
Absolutely.
So that's a really good way to think about it. And as you think about resiliency, how important is it for you to form relationships across the table with folks like legal and in audit?
Oh, it's critical.
Compliance. Yeah. Any tips that you can give to listeners and how to do that effectively?
So I am of the mind that this work first and foremost is relational, to your point. Not just with our partners like audit and in the risk space, legal and those sort of things, but also with our clinicians and our practitioners, the boots on the ground, the people that are doing the work. It doesn't matter what we recover unless it matters to the people who are on the front lines caring for our patients. And it doesn't matter what we can recover unless it fits our mission as an organization, which is that the needs of our patients come first. So everything that we do, I think I can tell you how I've done things. I can tell you how we did things in Cleveland. I can tell you how the team is doing things in Mayo. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anybody does unless it fits your organization and the culture of the organization in which you're trying to implement it. I squarely live in the camp of increments. So I have a phrase we talk about getting the nickels. Nickels will get you quarters and quarters will get you dollars. Or 2 nickels will get you first down. So it works whether you're a football fan or not. But the idea is that it starts with that incremental approach. And I think the relationship building starts that way too. Certainly active listening, doing a lot of active listening and making sure that as a team, our role is to be there to help facilitate the needs of the business to support our patients. We all have a very, very clear purpose and shared passion around that. And I think that's true across the board at Mayo, which is one of the things that makes that easier. So when you're centered in that purpose, as long as you have that shared purpose and you're all centered around that purpose, then it makes it a lot easier to build those relationships and always come back to that grounding force. So I think that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is to have a clear understanding of where you're trying to go. Integrity is everything. So understanding where you're trying to get to and being very clear on that pathway and intentional and purposeful as you're heading in that direction and just being really transparent along the way. I think all of those things are crucial to being able to develop those relationships that are necessary to do this work effectively.
Great advice. I love that. Once you break that ring of trust, it takes a long time to rebuild it. Sometimes you never get back, right? So I love the integrity, focus on integrity, and having an ethical compass is so critical these days because there's so much noise out there. There's so many possible distractions that could lead us down paths that we probably shouldn't take. So, as you look out over the next 12 months, 24 months, what are your top 3 priorities?
So I don't know that the priorities change month to month because we have a clear sort of blue sky strategy. As I do this work with my team, we do what I call blue sky strategy. One of the first things when I got here is we sat down and we had to understand where we were, but we also need to understand where we wanted to go. And I use this approach that I call blue sky strategy planning. And it's really just, if this could be everything without any barriers, what would it be?
Mm.
And being very clear on what that is, sort of the diamond, platinum encrusted technology resilience. This is what it would look like. And here's all the things that it would include. And then bucketing those things into high level ideas around, okay, this is our strategy. This is the core of what we're doing. From my perspective, strategy doesn't include timelines, right? This is a desired end state.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we have our why. Now we're going to figure out the how. What changes, I think, when you think about time blocking, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, what changes is the how, because the technology changes, the threat environment changes, the organization will change. But as long as you stay focused on the why, the central core idea, that desired end state of where you're headed, and you're making sure that everything that you're doing is getting you closer to that desired end state, even if you don't ever fully achieve it, then you know that the things that you're doing are not just checking boxes for the sake of checking boxes, but you're moving closer to that desired end state. And so for me, that's more what we focus on, is being very clear on what we're trying to accomplish and achieve. We know exactly what our mission is as a team within the organization. We know very clearly what the mission of the organization is. And then we will take whatever winding path happens along that way to get as close as we can to that desired end state.
And I love that immutability of strategy that's not changing. So often you'll go into an organization and every other month there's something new, a new strategy, which that thrashing can often, it affects the culture in a negative way, because the culture doesn't know what should we be doing today. And if I don't do this today, it's going to change anyway. So maybe I'll wait. So I love that North Star approach to strategy. What keeps you up at night these days?
I don't think it's anything different than keeping anyone else up,
especially
who's working in this series.
Your title, right?
Yeah. I am at heart a cyber girl. Mm-hmm. So after I was at the Cleveland Clinic for a couple of years, I went back and finished my master's degree in Homeland Security and Information Security and Forensics. And I love that. I love that work. But it is harrowing sometimes to think about the things that can happen. I find comfort in the resiliency work because for me, it's one of the few areas in cyber where we get to be proactive. We get to be on the front end of things, and these are things that we can control. We can develop plans. We can have plans of action for when something goes wrong. And we definitely operate in the realm of when, not if. I talk about that with my team a lot.
Right.
I am of the mind that something's always coming. We don't know what it is. If I had told you 4 or 5 years ago that we were going to have a pandemic, you might not have believed me to the proportion and scale that it happened. But obviously it did. So we don't ever know what's coming at us. But if we work on same consequence planning, what we know is that things that disrupt us, the impacts of those things are generally the same, regardless of the type of disruption. So if we focus on the same consequence planning, then we get to take control so that we don't have to be up at night.
Yeah, no, it's if we've learned anything through the pandemic and then Change Health and every other disruption and breach and ransomware attack that's happened over the last 5 years, decade or so, it's so important to obviously identify, detect, and protect. But what's even more important is the ability to respond and recover. And if we can't do that, all bets are off, right? Because you can't predict the next big thing. If you could, obviously, we would all be talking about the fact that Change Health is everyone's clearing house, and people are going to have a real difficult time collecting, getting paid for the work. And so I think that was a wake up call as well. But we've had these series of wake up calls recently, which again point to the importance of of resiliency, and that mantra that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So let's prepare to recover. I love that. What are you most personally or professionally proud of over the last couple of years?
Wow.
You've had a lot going on. So
done a lot.
When did you get your master's? How long ago?
So my master's degree, I finished in 21.
Oh, okay. So recently.
I did that. That was my pandemic fun. In addition to building the resiliency program for the Cleveland Clinic, which started at the beginning of 2020. I went back to school in August of 2020 with a 3 and a 5-year-old underfoot 24/7 because all the schools were closed and everything was closed and they were sent home. But I had a plan before we knew the pandemic was coming. I had a plan to do the master's degree. I had applied and been accepted at Penn State into the program there. And that was the plan. So that's what I did. And so super proud of that. Honestly, I take the most pride in the ability, like the teams that I've worked with, both in Cleveland and in Mayo. These are phenomenal teams.
Right.
I have stood shoulder to shoulder with the best and the brightest. And, I get to talk about the work that we've accomplished together and the things that we've done in a lot of different settings. And I love that we get to do that. Not because it's about me, but I tell you what, these are just some really incredible people with just a passion for protecting our patients and making sure that we're able to provide care. Both organizations, I have worked for the best of the best, and just thrilled to be a small part of the puzzle.
Nice, yeah. No, when you work with a great team and when you're surrounded with really smart people, it's so humbling too, because you recognize you really don't know what you don't know. Yeah,
I think that's true. Of course, that's long been a mantra of mine. I don't know what I don't know. And I think that the key to that is not being afraid to speak up and ask or say, I don't know, or I made a mistake, or I'm unsure.
Exactly.
And it's really important that we foster that inside of our organizations and inside of our teams. As a leader, I think it's critically important that not only do we tell our team members that, but we model it. And that gets back to the integrity.
Right.
I'd rather tell you I don't know than give you an answer.
I tell my team that all the time. Don't make it up. I mean, it doesn't help anybody.
Right.
Outside of your day job, what would you be doing? What are you most passionate about?
Oh wow. I've got 4 kids.
Right. Well, that's I know. Aside from
actually 5, I have 5 now.
5 kids. No.
Well, my nephew is with me now, and awesome. So thrilled to include him in the group. And my children, I have my oldest son, Christopher, is almost 28. And then my daughter, Kaylee, is 24. And Nathaniel, my nephew, is 18. And then I have 2 young children. Katarina is 9. She'll be 10 next month. And Caleb is 8. So
great ages.
I am so just...
Yeah. You got a range.
I do. I have a range. And they're all just incredible people. And so I am living everybody's dream. I think that I have been blessed beyond all measure and reason. And I love this life. I love the job that I have, the career that I have. I love the people that I get to interact with, and I love being a mom. So
awesome. No room for hobbies.
Hobbies are a funny thing. I love hobbies. And I often have a lot of different hobbies that are happening at once.
Me too.
So I sometimes do some painting.
Nice.
And I move in and out of sort of where my interests are and what I'm doing. So my home is filled with art, some of which I've done, some of which I've done with my children, some of which they've done. My younger daughter in particular is very, very artistic and does a lot of artwork. So sometimes there's that. I read a lot of things. Often several books are in a rotation simultaneously.
I subscribe to that. Yeah. Multiple.
Yeah. I might not be great at finishing them all very quickly, and it's a host of things, anything from informational things. I'm studying now for my CISM. So that's a book that's been sitting there, probably not as far into that as I should be, but we'll put some focus on it. I have, some fiction books, some informational books, all manner of things and topics. So a lot of that.
Do you read on the Kindle or do you prefer the physical?
I'm old school.
Me too.
I prefer a physical book that I can turn the pages on.
I just ordered 2 today. Hopefully my wife's not listening because she's like, the books are having babies. What's happening? You're getting closed in by your library.
Yeah, I think I just got 4 more books earlier this week, and the stack of to be read just continues to grow, but that's okay. There are worse things. Music is a big passion of mine, and there's always music in our home, in our car.
Let's talk about music. So you're on a desert island. You can bring 5 records with you. What would they be?
It's going to depend probably on when this happens. But right now, the album that's on repeat is I listen to a lot of Christian rock or Christian contemporary, a lot of Christian contemporary, and in that genre. So Tyrion released her album. I think it's called Worth the Wait. See, I don't even know what it's called, but that's been on repeat for the last, since it was released. So I often get into these cycles where I've got 1 or 2 albums on repeat. There's Toby Mac's latest album had been on repeat for a long time. That's a good one. Gosh, love R&B too. Like, there's really not much music I don't love. There are a few things I'll do without, but
good.
Yeah, it would probably be. I'm going to date myself. It'd probably be a mixtape.
You just dated yourself. Yeah. I love mixtapes. I used to. Well, now I make Spotify playlists now. It's sort of my contemporary mixtape. And,
pretty much.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Maybe just to have grace for yourself.
We're so hard on ourselves, aren't we?
We are. I think that's been, and part of it is just the lesson that comes with maturity and growth and healing and all the things which I think is a journey. I don't know that there's any such thing as healed. I think we're always it's always an action that's happening and ongoing. It's just an ongoing journey. I think just having grace. Oftentimes we are quick to have grace with others, but not with ourselves. And just knowing that it's all worth it. Like it's
all going to work out.
It is. And timing is everything. And it's not always, my timing seldom really matters.
Right.
I'm of the mind that there's a process and a pathway. And sometimes we just want to get the blessing without the lesson, and you need them both.
And other powers working on our behalf as well, if you believe that.
I do. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I have to ask you this question. This is the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. What's the riskiest thing you've ever done, Heather?
The riskiest thing I've ever done. I have 4 children.
I was going to say your master's. You went to a master's, and
I did.
That's pretty risky.
I've done I've done skydiving.
There you go. There, check.
I have. Love a good roller coaster.
Oh, me too.
I think, yeah. I mean, anytime you decide to raise human beings,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything riskier. You never know how
Swimming in risk. You're swimming. Yeah, exactly. No matter what you do, there's always that roll of the dice.
There is. I said with my oldest son, I had no idea what I'm like, at some point, I'm like, how am I going to do this? I have no idea how to do this. And I don't know there's no manuals, right? There's nothing. Right. And at some point I said, well, I will do the best that I can and pray that it comes out okay in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, it is my contribution to the economy, ensuring that the next generation of therapists is employed. So it's kind of what I've done.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've done. And I tell you what, they're all 5 of them are incredible human beings. And so
God is good.
All the time.
I hear you. Last question. What advice would you give to folks that are coming out of school that want to break into healthcare or into cyber or into some IT job?
So, and I get that a lot. People will ask me about the cyber pieces of it. And so I'll kind of stay focused on that. Cyber is such a unique field, right? It's very, very vast, and it has a lot of facets. And so that is always the one thing that I tell people is really to explore it. Explore all of the different facets of cyber. It's not all red teaming and blue teaming and purple teaming. It's not all firewalls and prevention. There's so many different aspects to it. I have a talk that I've delivered a few times that business resilience is cybersecurity. Because again, it's one of the few places where we get to be proactive. So really looking at here's what I enjoy, or here's what's a strength for me, or what I'm passionate about, aligning your purpose to the profession. And I think that that's true whether it is cybersecurity or not. But in cybersecurity, there are a lot of different ways to be a critical part of the cybersecurity story in any organization and in any industry. So really explore what that looks like, and then find where you're going to feel the best, where you're going to fit the best based on your skills and your purpose and your passions.
Right. Excellent. Excellent advice. Thank you, Heather. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. Remember, if you're on the front lines protecting patient safety or delivering patient care, to stay vigilant because risk never sleeps.